Welcome to the Limitless Podcast. The Limitless Podcast is centered around exactly that, being limitless. Hunting, fishing, fitness, nutrition, adventure, disabilities. What may be covered during the Limitless Podcast will be, well, limitless. Stay tuned for this episode of the Limitless Podcast. Hello, all of you Limitless Podcast fans. I am here again in the Eastern Shore office, same background that you guys are used to seeing, and no, there's no changes. I have not done any updates to the office or podcasting room. I'm way behind on that, and with weather changing and temperatures rising and weeds are growing, and man, I have Virginia creeper and poison ivy all over in the yard, and my wife just looks at that stuff and she's covered and she's itching, scratching on home remedies and steroids. So I'm thinking that my activity in this office, making it look cool and unique and to my liking, is probably going to go on hold until not even the fall, because the fall brings deer season and elk season and everything else in season. So I'm thinking it's going to be a winter project. So you're going to keep seeing the same bland background for several more months. But speaking of the podcast and things that are not bland, let's talk about some really cool sponsors that are on board and not supporting necessarily Limitless Podcast, but supporting you as the outdoor adventurer, enthusiast, wilderness athlete, and archers, hunters. We're going to start out with, and this is who we're going to talk to today too. I'm super excited about this. Hunting Day Coffee, 10% off any order at Hunting Day Coffee. Be Limitless 10. Now remember, Limitless has to be spelled correctly, and I'm not going to tell you how to spell it, because if you're listening to my show or if you know who I am, you should already know how to spell it. If you don't, and if the code doesn't work, you're probably spelling it wrong. Go check me out at either limitlessoutdoors.com or get on any of my social medias and see how to spell that correctly. But be Limitless 10 for a 10% discount at Hunting Day Coffee. Next up, Phelps Game Calls. Man, I love Jason and Dirk and the crew, and their call lineup just continues to grow, and so does the success of the users. But check out Phelps Game Calls. Now, this is a 20% discount currently on one single order, so use it wisely. But that is Be Limitless 20 at Phelps Game Calls. On Point Adventure Foods. As you all know, I am a backcountry fanatic. Freeze-dried food is more or less my substance, my main source when I'm out there, and I've used so many different brands. The owners at On Point Adventure Food, they are PA-based. Everything is made on their location. It is incredible food. They've offered up 10% on any order. Be Limitless 10 at On Point Adventure Foods. Vortex Optics. This is one of my favorite companies out there. I use Vortex Optics exclusively for glass on my binos, my spotting scope, my optics on my turkey gun, my rifles. I'm all about Vortex. Vortex doesn't deal directly with their customers, so you're going to go to Euro Optics. And I've used Euro Optics as a shopping platform many times over the past 4 or 5 years. Zero issues at Euro Optics, and you can call them on the phone and they'll talk to you. 25% discount from Vortex at Euro Optics. Any Vortex product at Euro Optics. Here's the code: VTX LMTLS25. Again, that's 25% off any Vortex order at Euro Optics. And we also have Wilderness Athlete, great nutrition and supplement company focused on wilderness athletes. I consider myself one of them. I love their products, their hydration and energy drink. I use it every single day. Not only is it effective, I don't get the jitters. I use their creatine, I use their greens formula. I use their pre-workout, and they have a caffeinated and non-caffeinated pre-workout. Their t-shirts, their hats are on point. They also have an altitude supplement, which I have used in the past, and I will be using it again this September. More to come on that product. And then they have a myriad of other products. Check them out. 20% off with Wilderness Athlete. Be Limitless 20. And last but not least, the Love Sauce. Buddy of mine, he's retiring from the Navy. As of this episode, recording this episode, he retires on Friday. Senior Chief in the Navy. Just a great dude. At the time of this episode publishing, he will have had his retirement ceremony. But the Love Sauce, it is a hot sauce company. The Love Sauce is offering a 10% discount on any order that's $12 or more. This isn't your run-of-the-mill hot sauce. This is a small batch. Harry's going to love this. I'm going to call it a boutique hot sauce. Check him out, thelovesauce.com. Again, that's a 10% discount of any order of $12 or more. So enough of that. You don't hear those discount codes every single episode. So write them down, take note, or just listen into some other episodes to catch those codes. Use those codes. They're there for your benefit. They do nothing for me. I've reached out to these companies because I like who they are. I like what they represent. And I believe in them. I use all of them almost on a daily basis. Those codes benefit me in no way, shape, or form. They are purely here for you as a listener. So with that said, I am looking at a bearded, handsome man that's not only becoming a person that I can rely on in the outdoor industry. He's becoming a friend, and he is becoming a pillar, or I should say, an arrow in my quiver of man, in my walk with Jesus Christ, and my faith with God and religion. So with all of that said, Stephen Robbins, owner, founder of Hunting Day Podcast and Hunting Day Coffee. How are you doing today, sir?
Man, Aaron, it is a pleasure to be on, and I love your podcast. I love everything about your podcast and you, and I appreciate you having me here. It's been a great morning. It really has. I got a lot done already, and I'm on I don't know which cup of Bowhunter coffee this is this morning, but it's a lot. So, uh, might be a little jacked this morning, but that's all right. And we've yeah, I've been looking forward to this, and since you announced that you were doing this on your own, I've definitely been a big supporter and glad to be on.
We're super. Well, I should say there's no weird. Well, my dog Sig is back here. I'm super happy that we finally got our schedules together. I too, sir. I'm into 20 ounces of PRC,
Oh,
and I might be I might I might be a moving object through this podcast this morning.
I
But
love it.
yeah, it's been a fun ride. So we met in January at the ATA.
Yes.
And at that point in time, I was cohorting with Al Quackenbush, aka Chubbs, when we were doing the Sprocket and Chubbs podcast. And we did a short little clip with you guys at the ATA on behalf of your coffee company, Hunting Day Coffee. And that was just the beginning.
It was. It really was. I tell you what, to know where we were at in January and being at the ATA, that was nothing short of God's miracle, right? We were a young company. We knew we wanted to be at the ATA, but we didn't know exactly how we were going to make that happen. And we just went out on faith. And the amount of people that we truly walked away as friends and becoming more than whatever you could, on the personal side, growing our relationship, and then even on the business side, just becoming colleagues, so to speak, in the industry. But I tell people all the time, you were the standout, right? And for me, I just not to get too deep here. When I end my podcast, I always, kind of the calling or the marching orders is to keep hunting and to keep doing what God calls you to do. And I believe that God has a calling on everyone's life. And for me, I believe it is to be a light, which God calls us all to be the light, right? And to shine the light of Jesus onto other people and to introduce him to them and into eternal salvation. And but I do believe that my calling is to go become a fisher of men in a large way, in a big capacity. And to meet you and to not know your faith and to not know where you were at, and but to share with you a little bit of my story and who I am, and to just become friends with you, to shortly after that getting a phone call from you saying, "Hey brother, I appreciate everything you said to me at ATA, and I'm starting a weekly devotional. I'm, you know, I don't want to share your story or take away or do anything in that regard, but basically, coming back to Christianity and to being a believer of Jesus, and inviting me to be a part of your weekly devotional with the Quiver of Men. And I can't tell you how much that's done for me and my faith, because no matter where you're at, it's there are times when it's tough. No matter who you have in your corner, it's tough. I mean, I don't want to scare people away from Christianity or not. You know, Words are hard for me this morning, but I don't want to push people away, but at the same time, I want to be real with them. Like, your walk with Jesus is not easy, right? And I don't think it should be, because if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Mm.
But at the same time, finding brothers like you and like the guys in the Quiver of Men to be able to rely on weekly. I have friends that I work with, I hang out with, or whatnot, and they're a great they're a great foundation as well, and friends to be friends with. But my brothers who I walk with Christ with, that's important to me. And I don't know if this is the direction that this podcast was headed, but if it's not, we can change gears here. But I tell you what, meeting you was a godsend. It really was. And I hope you know that. And for us, in the Quiver of Men, having you set all of that up, that's amazing.
Well, it's, you talk about callings, Stephen, and when you and I met in January, I was, at least in my mind, so far away from faith. I had walked away from religion at that point for nearly 30 years. And it was, when I say shortly after the ATA, it was shortly days after the ATA. Um, it was like God put his foot in the small of my back and pushed me down to the ground and just stood on me and said, "You're not getting up until you're getting up with me, standing next to me." And it was the very next day that I made two phone calls. One was to Jeff Literal and the other was to Anthony Fiorilli. And I asked them if they would meet with me virtually every week. I told them, I said, you have children and we all have jobs, and we all have wives. You tell me what day time works best for you, and I'm putting it on my calendar, and I want to meet with you guys via Zoom and 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 do a devotional, for our own benefit and growth, and to grow together as men. And they both chose Tuesday nights. And from there, um, the three of us decided that we wanted to bring in this close core group of archers of faith, and men that had had an impact in some way, shape, or form of bringing me back to Christ. And that's where that's where we came from. And I think we'll end up having a. I'm going to end up having to do an episode on the Quiver of Men, And we might need to just, maybe that's going to be one of our Tuesday nights is we're going to do a Quiver of Men recording for the Limitless podcast, tell our story. And but I don't want to get too far down into my testimony because we'll end up burning an hour of just my testimony, and we're not going to talk about you and Hunting Day Coffee. And that's what this episode is supposed to be about. But yeah, it's awesome to think that when we first shook hands, I was not following a walk of faith. And if given the opportunity, I would try to talk you out of Christianity. To just mere days later, returning to the Lord. And now look at where we're at.
Right.
The things that we're able to do together is going to, impact each one of us and our families. And when I say families, not just immediate family, but also, our friends and the other members of our group and whoever's on our prayer lists. It's a domino effect of nothing but greatness.
Yeah.
But I agree with you when you said earlier, something that's worthwhile is typically never easy.
Yeah.
And even if something incredible happens, it's usually it might be incredible for a short period of time, but in the long run, I think it diminishes rapidly because you didn't earn it. And so it's in some way, shape, or form, we earn that relationship with Jesus Christ because we meet every Tuesday and we do a devotional and we work together. Do you read your Bible every day? Do you do a devotional every day? Do you pray every day? Are you working with the Lord on your relationship? You're earning that trust. You're earning that connection. You're earning his love, his sacrifice. You're earning your place next to him in eternity when you pass from this earth. You don't get to, and I had this conversation with a friend of mine who said to me, Aaron, I believe in God. I don't believe in blind faith. And I said, well, then you're probably not going to heaven, brother. You don't get to go to heaven by just saying, yeah, I believe in God. Well, that's not how it works. You earn that place by his side. Do you want a big bull? As a non-resident, you want a big bull. When I say bull elk, right?
Yeah.
Well, that you got to earn that. You got to put in the time. Now, granted, you may fly out, hop in a truck, go to the trailhead, and you might be a quarter mile off the trailhead, and a bull stumbles out in front of you, and you put an arrow in it, right? And you get to tell that story, and people are like, "Holy cow, that's crazy!" But 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, again, this is Aaron's opinion, but what happens to, other than that story's hilarious. Yeah, but I didn't earn it. Right. Yeah. It's like the difference between going out and running a 5K and a marathon. You earn a marathon.
Yeah.
That feeling that you achieve when you cross that finish line, especially your first marathon, you just stop and it's like, holy cow, I just ran a marathon. You'll never, ever feel that running a 5K.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's like, it's what you guys are doing with this. And for those that are listening to this on your car radio or through Spotify or something, and you're not watching the video, I'm holding up a bag of Hunting Day coffee. And it's not my favorite blend because I'm a dark roast kind of guy. I like a bold, in your face cup of coffee. But this is becoming one of my favorite blends, and part of it's just because of the bag and the name. It's the Bowhunter Blend. I drank it for 3 days straight at the ATA. It's what, it was like the glue that brought Stephen and I together. I love the Bowhunter Blend, but anyhow, yeah, let's talk about coffee.
Yeah.
Let's man, you have definitely steered us in the direction of one of my favorite topics and talking about our faith. but I'm hosting you this morning to talk about coffee. So let's talk about hunting day coffee. Where and why did you start hunting day coffee?
Well, I will preface this with one thing. Without faith, I would not have done Hunting Day Coffee. So I want that to be known that I have God in this business 100%. Without him and his guidance, it would not be where it's at. But Hunting Day Coffee. So I have always loved coffee, most of my life, even as a younger kid. One of the cool things about going hunting or fishing with dad was he always had his thermos, right? This was the old Stanley thermos before it was cool type of deal, right? And
Was it that kind of green color, almost that?
it
Okay,
was,
yep, yep.
yep. And my dad, he drank Folgers growing up, and that's all I thought that's what coffee was, right? And I drink my coffee black because that's how dad drank it, right? He put a little sugar in it, and that was it. And I always looked forward to that. And drinking coffee, made me feel like I was older than I was. I was a man. And so as I grew older, though, I learned that, coffee doesn't have to be bitter and it doesn't have to taste terrible. And when you know, me and April will go on dates, or we'll go on an anniversary, and when we go somewhere on vacation, whatever it may be, we plan days that we're going to go visit coffee shops. Right now, it's probably nerdy or what, I'm not sure, but that's who we are, right? We love coffee, and so we'll go to coffee roasters. We'll go hang out, and see how they're doing their things and whatnot. And um, we were in Pensacola, Florida, and we went. It was our 15-year wedding anniversary, so this was 2 years ago, and we had just launched the podcast. We were a couple episodes into it, and we were trying to figure out how to monetize, right? And there were ways that we could monetize, and the way we looked at it was two ways. One was to take endorsement deals from companies, and we did that with a TV show years ago. And I really felt like it would be kind of hard of me or tough to say, hey, only shoot this bow, or hey, only shoot this product, right? Because as a hardworking person, if I'm going to spend my money on something, it's going to be I am going to lean on other people's opinion, especially people that I know to be not necessarily professionals, but extreme in their capabilities. So I will listen to them, but at the same time, I'm going to spend my money the way that I want to spend it, right? So I was like, well, I love Christensen Arms, I love Vortex, I love Matthews, I love Bowtech, I love Diamond. This will be the only time anyone will ever hear me say this. I even love Hoyt, right? And so all these companies are great, right? And so for me to tell somebody specifically only shoot this, I was like, it's not me, not right now, right? And so I said, we need a product. We need something that has our name on it that says, if you're going to drink this coffee, drink Hunting Day coffee, right? And so while we were on our anniversary, we were in Pensacola, Florida, and we went on a coffee tasting tour. And I believe it was DeVille Tours or DeVille Food Tour, something like that. The dude was awesome. We had such a good time. And we went to a bunch of different coffee shops. We went to a coffee roaster. And I looked at April and I said, we need a coffee. And she's like, you think? I said, yeah. I said, why not? Right? I mean, I've always had the opinion that, I may not be able to do it now, but I can learn to do it later. I can learn now to be able to do it later. And so we started the research behind coffee roasting and what we were wanting to do and the ability to scale. And I've told this story a little bit on my podcast, but I really haven't dove deep into it. But we teamed up with a coffee roaster, and we were months into our project. We had bags designed, and we were ready to pull the trigger. We are ready to go. We were going to launch this coffee, and we had a huge snag, and it was let's just call it a zero. our quote said 1,000 bags, and um, the the invoice came in at 10,000 bags, and we're like, whoa, time out. And long story short, it was a quoting error, and they were only going to honor that for one time. And moving forward, we were going to be held to a 10,000 bag minimum order each time. And I'm like, look, I don't want to warehouse coffee. That's not what I want to do. I want to sell coffee, and I want to have quality coffee. And this roaster had very good coffee. We were very impressed with it. And another uh, God moment, I think it was an opportunity for us to step back and, really think and pray about, like, hey, this is what we want to do, but is this what God wants us to do? Is this the direction that we want to go? And so it took us months to recover from this. And so we went back through the US, right? We started talking to different roasters, trying their products and giving them our roast profile. Hey, this is what we want our coffee to taste like. And then we even at one point considered going back to roasting it ourselves. But I work a full-time job as a oil and gas consultant. I work out of town 2 weeks at a time minimum. And April's a stay-at-home mom. We have 3 kids, so we have a consulting business. So we're trying to run businesses, teach our children, and it was like, do we really have time to roast coffee? And I know we can do it. We've done it, and it's I don't want to say it's easy by no means, but it's something that could be easily done. And we uh, we finally found a new roaster, and it was someone that I've always said that if you will be upfront and honest with me and spare my feelings, or not spare my feelings, but if you'll shoot me straight, you're the person I want to be around. And I had this crazy idea of a coffee roast, and I'm talking to this lady, and she's like, "That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard." And I was like, "Wait a minute, that's the dumbest idea you've ever heard?" I mean, like, I'll take it, right? I mean, but it was something that, if she was going to be that truthful with me, right out of the gate, she had everything to lose, right? I could just say, all right, well, if you're not going to do this idea, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. But she didn't care. She was truthful, right? And that's the people I want to be in business with, because if you will be upfront with me when you have everything to lose, you will be upfront with me when you have nothing to lose. And so I told April immediately. I said, "This is it. This is the place. This is where we're gonna go." And and we'd already tried all their roasts out, and we liked the way that they had roasted. And then we gave them our other profiles that we wanted and the different blends, and they were kicking them out, and we're like, "Man, these are awesome!" And we started having coffee tasting parties with family to where, hey, try this one, and because what I like may not be what the masses like. And running a business, that's something that I got to be extremely mindful about is, me and you may have two different flavor palettes. And if the majority of people are like you, then I want to sell a flavor that the majority of the people want. And so it's been it's been fun. April is the mad scientist, is what I call her, because our kitchen doesn't look like a kitchen. It looks like a coffee lab. And she is the mad scientist because she comes up with all the different flavors and the different profiles, and then she gets it over to our roaster, and then they work it up the way that she explains them, and then there we go. We got the Bowhunter, we got the Keep Huntin, and then the espresso PRC, and we've got 10 roasts now. So our first three that came to the market in July of 2023 were Bowhunter, Keep Huntin, and the Spear Hunter. And
So,
yep,
bow hunter. I've got spear hunter, and there it is right here. I've got keep hunting.
yep,
I think I'm missing one bag here. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I have 7 bags of coffee sitting right here.
that's awesome. That is
Yeah.
so awesome. Um, we've come out with the seasonal flavors. We got a fall flavor, which is the harvest pumpkin, and then we have a Christmas winter flavor, and that's our nativity star, which is a peppermint mocha. And one of the things that we wanted um, our bags to be was stand out, right? You look at companies like Black Rifle Coffee, great company. You look at another company, Blackout Coffee. They're great coffee, great company, and their bags stand out. And I've seen plenty of great coffee companies, but they're on bland bags. You know, they got a black bag, a white bag, or a brown bag with a sticker slapped on it. And I'm not saying that that's not good for them and that maybe that's the business model they want. That wasn't the business model I wanted. I wanted to be able to really kind of compete in this space, right? And I think people buy with their eyes before
Mhm.
they do. I mean, if you can't try my coffee, you're going to buy it based on whether or not it looks good to you. And so our designer, we have an amazing designer. Her name is Laura Spaeth, and she owns Tell Designs up in Wisconsin. And she knocks it out of the park for us. You know, I think at times we probably drive her crazy. She tells us we don't, but I know we do. I mean, I drive myself crazy, so I know we do her, and but we give her, you know, hey, here's kind of the theme that we want this bag to be, and then I mean, she tees it up and then just knocks it right out of the park. And that Harvest Pumpkin bag's one of my favorite bags that we have because it's a father and son out hunting, you know, and I told her, I said, look, to me, hunting, I always go back to hunting with my dad or hunting with my kids. That's what hunting is to me. You know, it's not the killing, you know, don't get me wrong. That's why we're there and it's part of it, but it's the journey and it's the people we share it with is what's important to me. And when she put that bag out there, I was like, this is, you know, I didn't cry, but I was excited, you know, and it was a little emotional because it brought me back, you know, it made me think of the times when I was a kid walking around hunting with my dad. That was some of the really the only time that I spent with him was if I was hunting with him or fishing with him. That was our time together. And so that brings back fond memories. And so it's, you know, our bags are important to us. The way they look, they're important to us. And we have kind of like a generation one bag and we have a gen two bag. The gen two bags we're really excited about. Those just came uh 3 weeks ago. We have a great manufacturer up in Wisconsin. And that's the other thing, right? Aside from our beans, everything is done in the US with our coffee, right?
I love
We,
that.
you know, it costs us a little bit more, but that's okay. You know, we are all about American business and you know, we are hunter owned and that's what you know, we proudly display that on our bag, proudly roasted in the USA. And if we could figure out a way to get only coffee beans from the U.S., I'm sure we would do it. But unfortunately, you know, South America is where most of our beans come from. So it's, it is important to us though that the bags they look good, they're functional. Like our new Gen 2 bags, they are a flat bottom with a tearaway zipper and you can reseal it. That way, it's not the fold down twist tie that we had before. And um, part of our Gen 2 bags was we were going more retail. And, you know, as of this recording, man, we are truly blessed. We're not, I guess, July will be 1 year into sales to the public. And so we are May, June, or June, July. So we're 10 months into this thing, and we're in over 40 retail locations across the US. And, you know, some of the greatest people I've ever met are some small business owners, mom and pop archery shops, gun stores, and that's who sell us, right? That's who sell our product. And as of the ATA, that grew tremendously, right? Again, that was all God getting us there, telling us, you know, we wanted to be there, but he told us we had to be there. And we got there. And then one of the relationships that we developed was with Shields Outdoors. And wow, what a godsend that was because their purchasing department, Jake and Jeff and all of those guys, I mean, I'm telling you what, they are phenomenal to work with. And I'm just a redneck, right? I've known nothing about the retail space. And they walked me through some of the I don't want to say hardest procurement side of things. Like I've done some procurement with the oil and gas side with my businesses, but that's just setting up an MSA, getting my insurance in place, and hey, off we go, right? But you know, Shields has been awesome, right? They walked me through every step of the way, and now we're currently in 9 of their stores. They've got over 30 stores in the U.S., and this is a trial run for us, right? If these 9 stores do good, then it looks like we're going to get opened up to all of them. And we're really excited about that, right? Because that's, I'm not patting myself on the back by no means. That's all God. That is truly a God thing because, again, I'm just a redneck that likes to drink coffee. I know how to drill holes in the ground and get gas and oil out of it.
Shields is you and I've had this conversation, and I've mentioned this before. Um, if there's listeners out there that aren't familiar with Shields, they truly are what Cabela's used to be 30 years ago. They are certainly what Cabela's, Bass Pro, Sportsman's Warehouse, what they are not today. And I rarely ever openly express negativity about a company, a brand, a product. I'm very careful about that. Everybody has different experiences. Everybody has different likes. But I will tell you this. And my life as an outdoorsman, and I'm 51 years old, and my dad and my grandfather have had me in the outdoors before I could walk. I watched the change and experienced the change of Cabela's, Bass Pro, and Sportsman's Warehouse, and they're all under the same canopy. Cabela's, which is supposed to be a franchise about the hunter and for the hunter, they cost me my elk hunting experience in Idaho last year. Idaho allows a resident or a non-resident that's in person in the state to purchase license and tags on behalf of another outdoorsman if they're already in the system. I was already in the system. I had a resident of Idaho Falls go into the Cabela's in Idaho Falls the morning that non-resident tags went on sale, went up to the counter, the kiosk, to purchase my license and tag on my behalf. And Cabela's said, no, we will not do that here. Despite the fact that it's state law that they wouldn't do it. They said, we will only sell it if that person is here in person. And I put all of my eggs in that basket. Well, that's not true. I was sitting online waiting for my turn in the queue, but my buddy went to Cabela's and Cabela's would not do it. When that took place, I said, I don't want to do business with you anymore. You are supposed to be the big box store for the outdoorsman. And you're in a state that allows this, but because you want to try to control the number of people hunting in your state, that your Cabela's is not going to follow state law and sell a license and tag to my friend on my behalf. I said, I'll never, if I can help it, I'll never buy from you again. You'll never get my money again. Shields, right? That blew me away. I called them on the phone and they were very blunt and pretty much told me to pack stand. You want to hunt in our state, then come out here and buy a tag. I was like, holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah. Now that's probably not Cabela's as a whole, but that is Cabela's. And you know what? I think that speaks volumes to what they have become.
Yeah.
When I go into a Shields, I was introduced to Shields last year. Chris Ham of HHA Sports and HHA USA introduced me to Shields up in Wisconsin. And no, it wasn't last year. It was the year before. I'm sorry. It was the year before. I fell in love immediately. When you walk into Shields, you are walking into a store that is still proud of hunters. That when you walk in the glass doors, they have success photos plastered up on the wall. They have all of their employees for that location and images of their favorite hobby. When you go into the second, and there's massive bronze statues and beautiful full mounts around. And when you go to the second glass doors, when you get through their entryway, they have employees with a smile on their face that are openly engaging with you. They're not shoving their engagement isn't shoving their credit card endorsement or offer down your throat. Because when I walked into Bass Pro or Cabela's, it's, hey, good morning. Do you have our credit card? We can
Yeah.
save you 10% today. It's not, hey man, welcome to Shields. How are you doing today? What can we help you with? Can I send you in a direction? Can I call somebody in a department? What are you looking for today?
Yeah.
There's no credit card in my face, right? And then when you're moving through the store, I think it's absolutely impossible to walk by a Shields employee without them engaging with you. You can be on your phone and they're going to say, hey, how are you doing? Can I help you? Are you finding what you're looking for? They are in your space. They want to help you and make your visit to their store the best that it can possibly be. I love it. Their customer
Yeah.
service department is on point. It's just, you call them on the phone, they're going to answer their phone and they're going to talk to you. Their ordering process is incredible. Um, I've just been super, super happy with it. And for you guys to partner with them, it's like one of the best US based coffee companies currently is now partnered with the best outdoor based big box store in the US. There's only
Yeah.
great things that can come of that.
Absolutely. It really
Yeah.
is. Dude, I'm telling you what, we're jacked. No, don't get me wrong. We're excited about any partner that we bring on, right? Any store that says, "Hey, we want to sell your coffee," because that means something to us, right? Because they're putting their faith into our coffee and they're putting an investment into us. And I don't take that lightly. So I want everyone to know that, like, hey, we're excited about Shields, but we're excited about everyone. But one thing that with Shields that most people, especially on the eastern part of the country, up until about a year ago, I didn't know that Shields existed, right? And so um, they're more in the Midwest and the western part of the U.S. there, and so I've never been in one, right? I've been to very few states out in the West, and but now that we're kind of like we're moving more coffee in those states out in the Midwestern states, out in the Western states. We're gonna do a coffee tour, but it's gonna be the Hunting Day coffee tour, and we're gonna go visit every store that sells our coffee, and it's gonna be great, and it's something that it's gonna take time, obviously, to plan this out, right? Because that's a lot of states, that's a lot of stores, and so and not just the Shields stores, all of them. But I will eventually get into my very first Shields store and get that experience because I've not had it, and I'm excited about it. And one of the stores that did purchase from us was Meridian, Idaho. So next time you're looking for a bull tag, make sure your friend stops in Meridian and gets your tag for you.
I've never, I'm looking up Meridian, Idaho right now.
It's a newer store too. Um,
Is it?
yep, the stores that we're currently in for Shills, and want to make sure I get this right. And so we are in Billings, Montana. We're in the Chandler, Arizona, Reno Sparks, Colorado City, Colorado, Johnstown, Colorado, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, St. Cloud, Minnesota, the Colony in Texas. So that's 8. And then Meridian. That's 9. So those are our 9 stores that we're in, and we're so thankful to be in them. And I follow Shields Outdoors on social media as well as Shields Sports, and then all the different, like, each store has their own social media account,
Mhm.
and I can tell you they have fun. It looks like their employees are happy to be there, and they have fun with their social media, and I think that speaks volumes too. Um, and so we're excited to be a part of that team. I mean, they're for us as a milestone to as a company. Now it's not the finish line, but it is a milestone for us to be able to provide coffee for such a large company and to do it efficiently. You know, they gave us a deadline and it was more than obtainable. And that's one thing that too, you know, they didn't come in and demand this, demand that, and do it this way or not at all type of deal. I mean, they worked with us and they were phenomenal. And the deadline time frame, it wasn't a deadline, but the time frame they gave us was more than obtainable, and we were able to ship by that time. And everybody, each store has their coffee delivered. 4 stores were delivered yesterday and 5 on Monday, or vice versa, one of the two. So Monday, half the stores got their coffee, and then yesterday, Tuesday, the remainder got theirs. So we're, Shills should be getting their coffee on the shelves any day now. So if you're in those areas, please stop in and check us out.
Are they going to have your coffee on their website, or is it going to be an in-store purchase only?
They're going to be on the website too.
Excellent.
We signed the waiver that said that they could do that. So yeah, we're excited about that.
So Johnstown, Colorado,
Yep.
Shields.
Yes.
Last September, my 3 of us were hunting out of Steamboat.
Okay.
And Andy Young, you haven't met Andy Young yet.
No.
Trying to praying for that connection hasn't happened yet. Andy and I showed up in Colorado, and Johnstown was an overnight stop before we finished our run up into Colorado, or not Colorado Springs, up into I just Steamboat.
Yep.
And we planned on buying our license and tags at Shields. Andy had never been to Shields. And so I said, hey, you know what? We're making this long, arduous drive. You've never been to Shields. Let's get a hotel room in Johnstown, and then we'll hit Johnstown, and then we'll finish our drive up. So we went to Johnstown. Man, we had so much fun. I'm in shorts. So I'm walking around, with my prosthetic leg on, and we're up in the archery department, and we're just looking at stuff. And at that point in time, I was shooting an Elite Era and an Elite Omnia, and they'd come out with the Era. And Andy had just purchased a Prime.
Okay.
He was, everybody's drawn to the carbon bow in some way, shape, or form. If you don't like it, you want to go hold it, maybe draw it and shoot it, just so you can tell everybody all the things that you don't like about it.
Right.
And then, there's all the middle ground in between. And then there's the guys that just absolutely love the carbon bow. There's nothing better on the market than the carbon bow. And for me, in the realm of carbon bows, I think they're great. I think they're cool, but for the additional anywhere from $600 to $1,000 difference that you're going to pay for that carbon riser compared to an alloy riser, when I shoot them, I just can't pinpoint the benefit that would cause me to spend that additional money on the bow. Yeah. If somebody gave me one, I'm going to shoot it, right?
Right.
But anyhow, they had an Era sitting on the shelf. And so the archery manager comes over and he starts talking to Andy and I, and was he motivated. He's like, hey man, I'll give you $100 off this bow if you guys want to buy this bow. And I said, we're sitting there laughing and this and that. And I was like, man, I have an Omnia that I haven't even killed anything with yet. So why would I buy your Era if I don't even have blood on this Omnia yet? And we're going back and forth. He's like, I'll give you a really, really sweet deal. And the light bulb went off in my head, Stephen. And I said, yeah. I'll give you a really good deal. I said, I will trade you straight up my prosthetic for that Elite Era. The guy was like, what? He's like, I said, I will take my leg off right now, and I'll have Andy Young help me hop out of your store. I will trade you straight across my prosthetic leg for that carbon Era right now. He's like, what would I do? What would I do with your prosthetic? I'm like, put it on your mantle. I said, do you have a man room? He's like, yeah, I've got a man cave. I said, put it on your mantle. I said, every person that walks into your man cave He's gonna be like, wow, what's that prosthetic about? I said, you've got a story for the lifetime. I said, not
Yeah.
only that, I said, my prosthetic leg is worth probably 7 or 8 carbon errors. You're getting the better end of the deal. You've
Yeah.
got to you've got to make a lamp out of it. You've got a talking piece for the rest of your life. And or you can sell that sucker on eBay and go buy 8 brand new eras to put back on your shelf. You're getting a
Yeah.
much better deal. We're laughing, we're having fun. This guy's like, hey, you're insane, man. He was like, you wouldn't even be able to hunt. I was like, oh, I will crawl through the mountains of Idaho with your bow if you trade me straight across for my prosthetic leg. I'll make it happen. Well, then the store manager's doing his walk around. He walks up. He's drawn to the noise of laughter and voices and
Yeah.
what's going on. So he shows up, and the archery manager's like, I can't remember their names now. But he's like, check this dude is offering to trade us straight across his prosthetic right now for this era, like a straight across trade. And the manager's like, he's like, what? He's like, why would we do that? What would we do with your prosthetic? And I was like, have you ever watched Guardians of the Galaxy? Everybody's favorite part from the first movie is when Rocket says, and I need that guy's prosthetic, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, you have a talking piece for the rest of your life. I'm not kidding. They literally started. I was like, you can put it back there and hang it from your archery counter. You would have a prosthetic leg in Badlands camo, by the way. It's got a Badlands wrap on it. You'll have a Badlands prosthetic leg hanging in your archery center for the life of this store with an incredible story behind it. And the guy was like, man, that's not a bad idea. I almost had them convinced to trade me that era for my prosthetic, man.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Yeah,
That
that's
really would.
Shields. That's Shields.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it
No,
was a
I love it.
blast. Yeah, I will go to Shields at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
been what's really crazy about that experience with meeting them was we were in the hotel the can't remember if it was the first night. I think it was the whatever night it was, right? Because as an exhibitor, I can get there 2 days before the ATA starts so that I can get my booth set up. And it was either the first night we were there or the second night. It might have been the second night we were there the night before the show opened up. And there was a couple guys from Shields in the elevator with us, and we didn't know it, right? We're like, hey guys, tomorrow morning we're gonna have fresh hot coffee. Come down, whatever booth we were, like 39, whatever, right, or 30, whatever the booth number was. I was like, come down and get you a free cup of coffee. And the next day they came down, and then they introduced themselves, and I was like, holy crap. And again, I think that was God putting us in the elevator with them and, kind of giving me that nudge like, hey, invite them over to get coffee. Because, one thing that we did at the ATA, it was free coffee for everybody. It didn't matter who you were, whether you would buy our coffee or not, it was free coffee for anyone.
All you could drink.
Yes.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I'm telling you what, and like the people that came with us, so we had some of our best friends between Donnie and Jessica, Dallas, Logan, Chance, and Hannah, and then even Ted and Amber showed up and helped out every now and then, which they were there for their TV show, so they had a lot going on. But our best friends, I mean, they showed up and they were some of the biggest help because without them, that show was not a success for us,
Mhm.
right? I think God would have found a way, but at the same time, like they stepped up in a big way for us because me and April spent a lot of time talking to people and they helped talk too, but they were behind the scenes. They were keeping the coffee flowing and you know I think with adversity, you kind of you grow, right? You learn and you adapt and you figure things out. And you know, the vendor setup day for day two was smooth sailing, right? We got most of our booths set up on day one. Day two was smooth sailing. I was shuttling back and forth from the airport, picking people up. And day one of the show, we started having electrical problems because, day
Oh,
one for vendor setup, we had enough power to run one 100 cup percolator. And then when we put a second one in there, we were fine. But it was when we did the third and the fourth, we were tripping breakers, right? And so our
Oh,
booth kept going down. And one of the downfalls to our percolators is once they start a cycle, they have to finish. If you shut them off, they start back over again. And
oh
so,
no.
yeah, so we had some coffee that was, 20 minutes from being done. And then we had to start that process all over again. And so, we, we learned that our power wasn't quite what we needed it to be. And it was on the show side. It wasn't ATA side. It was on the actual convention side because we
Mhm.
told them what we needed. Hey, this is what we're running. This is what we're going to need. And so it was a dropped ball or miscommunication on their side. So by the time that they got us set up, it was late into the morning, the latter part of the first morning, and we still, I mean, we went through some coffee. I'm telling you what, like that was one of the wildest experiences I've ever had. I've attended ATA, but as a spectator, walking around and seeing all the different companies with our TV show. But then as an exhibitor, I was nailed to that booth. And again, like without all of our friends showing up and helping us out, like I don't know how we could have done it. And the amount of, I want to say, welcoming, right? The as an industry whole, like we were welcomed. And I know we were giving away hot coffee and it was St. Louis in January and it was cold as can be, but at the same time, like just the amount of people who were appreciative that we were there. And I'll tell you what, my trailer was packed full of things that I did not come with because the amount of vendors that were like, "Hey, thank you for everything you did for us." Big time. I'm telling you what, I had more mineral and attractant ready to go after the. I mean, which we put it out in Texas, Dallas and Chance did. They put it out at the ranches, and GSM, they hooked us up. Novix hooked us up. I'm trying to think. Millennium, like we had a lot of companies that were like, "Hey, thank you," and then the amount of companies that came by and they're like, "Hey, use this discount code. You'll get 30 or 40% off anything you buy." And I'm like, I appreciate it. And then Maverick Hunting Blinds, I tell you what, they're awesome people, and we bought their entire booth. I don't know if they would get mad at me if I told you how much we bought it for, but it was pennies, right? And they were like, "Hey, one, we don't want to ship it back, and two, you guys hooked us up with coffee all week. Here, they wrote down on a piece of paper, and they're like, what do you think?" And we bought. Dallas ended up buying three of their uh, three blinds and an elevated platform, and for less than what you would buy one blind. And I
Wow.
was, yeah, it was great. Like just the amount of people, the relationships that were developed there, the guys from Bone Collector Game Calls, the guys from 10 Point, oh shoot, Obsession Bows, like all these guys that uh, had I not had coffee, I probably would have never met them and talked to them and developed relationships. Brad Strope from Blocker Outdoors, like Scent Block and Scent Locker, like those guys. Meeting you and Alan and just like the amount of people that came through our booth that had we not had coffee, we probably would not have met, but I think it's cool that we did, and the relationships that were founded that day and that have continued to thrive and grow. It's been phenomenal.
I've known Brad Strope since I think 2018. May have been 2017, but 2018, beginning of 18 for sure. What a great guy. Um, Brad and I, we don't communicate as much as we used to, just because of the direction our lives have taken us,
Yep.
not because of anything else. Brad and I worked a social media platform for veteran hunters,
Okay.
military veterans, or law enforcement first responders, and we help manage aspects of that social media platform. And just a great guy. did a podcast, not a podcast, did a YouTube video with Brad a year or two ago, and I just really enjoy chatting with him. Yeah, he's and when I saw Brad's posts with your brand, it just really warmed my heart.
Yeah. No, he's a great dude. He really is. And so an ATA is like you're now allowed to start picking your booths. But because we're one of the newer companies, like our time slots like a few days out. So I've been messaging all the different people that were frequenting at our booth. I'm like, hey, where are you guys going to be at? Where are you guys going to be at? Because we're going to try to get closer. You know, not that we were tucked away in the corner, but we were essentially tucked away in the corner. And so I feel like too, this year being more centrally located is going to help us as a brand, but then help out all the other brands too,
Mm.
because they're going to be coming, you know, 10 Point, they walked from the clear the other end of the show and they would come up and, so I don't know how far that is, but it was a couple hundred yards, it seemed like, by the
Yep.
time they round tripped it. And so they would, it was like they came in shifts, a couple people would come get coffee. And then once they got back, their relief would keep coming back and forth. And we loved it. The amount of people, like I said, it was so great. And then to see the people that come back and then the people that would come back and hang out. And then
Mm.
like that's where we started developing those friendships. And one of the other friendships that I developed and I think old Mike Dragic, blue collar brawler, right?
Yep.
So I did what you told me to do. I told him, I walked up to him. He had his big muscles out with his cut off shirt, like super dude, right? Very intimidating if you just, looked at the guy, right? Because he's this, MMA fighter and everything. And, I stand 5'10" on a good day, right? And if I got the right cowboy boots on and, I'm 190, I'm not in shape anymore, right? And so I walk up to Mike and I'm like, hey, I heard you need somebody to train you. And he just looked at me.
Ah,
And I was like, either he's gonna, punch me in the next week or he's gonna laugh. And he just started laughing. He's like, what's up, man? Like he treated me like he knew me.
yeah.
And that relationship has been great too. Mike's a super good dude and Project Save Your Outdoors and what he's doing with that. Like we're excited and happy to be a part of that. And it's again, ATA, man, it was all God getting us there and making sure we showed up and putting the right people in our lives. And I can't say that enough. And, I'm sure people are probably going to be tired of me saying that, but I'm going to say it up until the next ATA. And I'm probably going to keep saying it after that, because the amount of people that the relationships that we are building in this industry. And I think that's what's important too, is as an industry whole, coming from the TV side of it, you know, I had as a young kid, basically, right? I was a young adult or in my early 20s. I started a TV show. I knew nothing about TV hunting. I just saw it and I wanted to do it. And I've always been the type of person that I'll figure it out, right? It's either going to be a huge success or I'm going to, you can call it a failure, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to know how to do it. And when I got out of TV, I was jaded about the industry, right? Because there could be, if you focus on it, a lot of negative in this industry. And so it took me maturing and learning and growing to realize that it's it's not all bad, right? It's not all negative. It's a lot of great people. It's a lot of godly people that are there. Now there are other people who have ulterior motives and things like that, and so be it. It's hopefully God gives us discernment to determine who they are, and if they do come into our lives, they're not there long. And and I'm not saying that to be ugly. It's just I want to be surrounded by the people that are gonna help me grow as a Christian and my walk in faith, but also be beneficial to our industry as a whole.
Mm.
And so I'm excited about, we're already making plans for ATA. Our booth's going to be bigger. We were shoulder to shoulder so many times then, which was, not terrible, but at the same time, like we want people to want to be there. I've got ideas. I don't know. I took most of my podcast studio. That was that was our booth other than our backdrop, right? And then we had a few tables set up and whatnot, but like our barrels, this cooler here, like that's in my studio. And we had no clue what we were doing. We winged it, right? And my goodness, what a good time it was.
It was fantastic. So, I said it earlier when we kicked this episode off. The companies that I have associated with the Limitless podcast,
Yep.
they're not companies that pursue me.
Yeah.
I'm nobody, and they're not paying me. My The companies that I have associated with this podcast, they're companies that I truly believe in. I've used their
Yep.
products, and 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 I've pursued those discount codes for listeners because I know that if they use them and those products are put into their hands and they take them out into the field, that they're going to find success, and
Yeah.
that's important to me.
Yeah.
And when Al and I started Sprocket and Chubbs, same foundation. We focused on products that we mutually used
Yep.
and that we both agreed upon, and then we pursued those companies for the same reason. If you're going to be attached to, if we're going to talk about you or advertise you on the Sprocket and Chubbs podcast, it was because we truly believed in that product, and also what the company was about and what they stood for. That's equally as important to me.
Yes.
Through that time frame, Al and I are both avid coffee drinkers, and we pursued a couple of coffee companies. Um, I used to drink a ton of Black Rifle coffee. I'm a big fan of Black Rifle coffee. Not only do I like their coffee, I like what they do for veterans and
Yes.
active duty military. And I personally have reaped the benefits of Black Rifle coffee. I attended the last um, big archery shoot that they hosted in Texas. It's been a couple of years now. Unfortunately, they haven't done it for the past 2 years. Incredible event. And they brought us in to a location outside of Bernie, and for a couple of days they just treated us like royalty. And it's veterans supporting veterans,
Yeah.
and I'm a big fan of Black Rifle because of that. Unfortunately, um, Black Rifle is massive, and you know to help drive and benefit their company, they associate or sponsor or support big name people, right?
Yeah.
And they were very honest with me. They're like, Aaron, sorry, you don't have the following that we need to support who you are and what you're doing. I
Yeah.
respect that. It sucks. It's hard to hear that. It's like, man, I'm sure you didn't like hearing that when you did your first, you roasted your first batch, but it's reality, right? It's
Right.
business.
Yeah.
Um, I found another coffee that I really enjoyed. And they had a couple of applications that fit my lifestyle and my outdoor adventures. And I drank their stuff. I bought their product. I talked about them a little bit. I pursued them, and it that pursuit ended in two different phone calls with them that brought nothing to the table. Always, it was always more or less empty promises. And
Yeah.
I was going through that process with them when I met you at the ATA.
Okay.
And again, it's everybody can have their own opinion or their outlook on how things happen, Stephen. And when you and I first shook hands, I would have told you that it had nothing to do with God. Days later, I will 100% say that you were influential in bringing me back to the Lord. And then what is developed after that it's His work, it's His plan, right? Now working together, I drink your coffee every day. I promote your coffee every day. I My nonprofit, my 501c3, the A3G initiative, I view that the same way that I view any podcast events that I'm on. I speak highly of and promote the companies that I truly trust and believe in. And I focus, the A3G is no different. Everything that I attach to the A3G, the people on my board, the products that we provide to our annual recipient, the products that we use during the hunt, everything has been tested and vetted by me. That's what I'm about. I don't want to give a product like this year, our recipient's Dustin Pruitt. I will not put a product in that young man's hand unless it's something that I've used in the field and I know it's not going to fail him, or that company is not doing nefarious things in the outdoor industry. It's important to me. And
Yeah.
you have graciously attached yourself to my grant. It's that full circle, that full circle effect of faith, of not only in what you're doing and what you're using, but also who you believe in. And man, that's so crucial. It really, really is.
Yeah. And man, I tell you what, like just being able to be a part and to help and, you know, just support what you're doing, that matters to us. We support a lot of, I don't want to say a lot. We support different foundations that are giving back to veterans and to our community and to conservation. And, as a small company, we get asked a lot to, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? And most of the time the answer is yes. We've yet to turn anyone down that is doing something for the community, right? Now we've had plenty of shows come to us and say, hey, we want to, we want X amount of dollars. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Like, like I appreciate you considering us, but we're not a good fit right now. But at the same time, like if a company is giving to or not necessarily a company, but a foundation, like what you're doing with A3G, and that means something to me. And I'm not a veteran, right? I'm not a military person, but I have tremendous respect for those of you who have served and have given more to this country than this country deserves. And and I mean that's a different topic for a different time, I believe. But at the same time, man, I appreciate everything you've ever done for this country. And to be able to, as a company, as Hunting Day Coffee, and even as Stephen Robbins, to be able to support what you're doing, that means a lot to me. And I plan on being here for the long haul for you guys and what you're doing.
Well, we really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to, it's the quiver of men is just stellar, and having some activities to where we get to get together face to face. That's not business related,
Yep.
and just continue to build those friendships. But one thing that will always be involved with that is going to be your coffee. So again, I have, I have 7 bags of coffee sitting here in front of me. So I have the Bowhunter Blend. I have Spear Hunter, which Spear Hunter's, it's one of my favorites. My wife and I recently purchased an actual coffee pot. We've done press, the French press, for almost pretty much the entire time that we've been together. So for 5 years, it's been
Yeah.
nothing but French press in our house. But because of time in the morning, the coffee pot's just easier.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as the French press goes, I find I get I get more of the actual flavor from the coffee by doing a French press than doing a drip.
Yeah.
The Spear Hunter is incredible in the French press and or a pour over. So Spear Hunter is one of my favorites. I haven't had the Keep Huntin yet, but I hear great things about it. But here's the Keep Huntin. The whiskey Willow Reserve.
Yes.
Have not tried this one yet. Haven't opened it to smell it yet. Really looking forward to it. This one's probably going to be the next bag that we open.
Okay.
The limb hanger, even though it's turkey season, have not opened the limb hanger yet. It was a toss up. So one of the bags that I do not have up here is the cattle drive.
Yep.
So Last week we were due to open a new bag, and Tara and I were going on a birthday. It was her birthday weekend. We're going on a birthday trip together. So it was between the limb hanger and the cattle drive, and she chose the cattle drive. Hindsight 2020 being turkey season, probably should have opened the limb hanger, but it's about to happen. Um, I have here the Upland Flight, and Upland Flight it's a French vanilla medium roast. That one will be opened at some point, and then the espresso PRC. This is another one of my favorites, just because it's a dark, bold blend, and this is really really good in the French press or a pour over. And I want to clarify, when I talk about being a bold coffee guy, I was military, I was Navy for a long time. And you walk into the mess hall, or the galley, or you walk into the chief's mess, everybody has their favorite coffee cup that just has a decade of stain on it. And the coffee pot has don't wash that thing. You wash all the flavor out of it, right? And it's like these massive containers of chock full of nuts or Folgers, right? And they
Yeah.
put 2 or 3 times the recommended amount inside the filter, and then they run it, and then they let it sit on the burner so it boils it down. They're like, that's good coffee. No, it's not. It's absolute garbage. It's crap, right? Um, so to me, there's a difference between drinking that nasty motor oil that's been overburnt all day, that's
Yeah.
probably an over roasted or burnt coffee bean to begin with.
Yep.
Uh, these coffees here that I'm looking at, holy cow, they taste so good. So I can honestly tell you that I've had the Bowhunter, the Spear Hunter, the Espresso PRC, and the Cattle Drive, and I'm not disappointed with any of them whatsoever. Not at
That's
all.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I give April a lot of credit, and our roaster. They, I wish I could say, hey, those are mine. I came up with those. That's all April and our roaster right there. And I'm telling you what, when you open that whiskey Willow, so that's a Highlander grog, which is a butterscotch whiskey. Oh my goodness. That was the one that I wanted to come out with first, right? That was kind of something that's, one of my favorites. But when we came out with coffee, I'm like, I kind of think we need to start with just a regular base. That way we're not flavored. The Bowhunter is a medium. It's real smooth. The Keep Huntin is a medium, but it's a low acid. That way, if you got indigestion from drinking coffee, that's a really good alternative right there. And then the Spear Hunter, that's that dark caramel like sweetness. And so those were our three foundations. And then we started adding the flavors after that. The next flavors that came were the seasonal ones, because that's the seasons we were in. But this last drop was those four of Upland Flight, Cattle Drive, Whiskey Willow Reserve, and Limb Hanger. And I'm telling you what, I don't know if the anticipation, because we'd been building those roasts up since ATA. I don't know if it was the anticipation of them coming, but they are moving. And it's the colony there for Shills, they ordered 72 bags of Cattle Drive. And I was
Wow.
like, whoa, which Texans, right? They anything to do with Texas. And they're proud of it, and they should be, because Texas is an awesome place. And the Cattle Drive bag was inspired by Fort Worth Stockyards. I love that place, right? Anytime we go to Texas, if there is time available, and we typically make time, I can say out of the last 20 trips to Texas, I've been to the Fort Worth Stockyards 18 times, right?
Oh
It's
my.
we take the kids there because there's so much to do. They parade the Longhorns up and down the street still to this day. That's part of their routine, and it's just an amazing place to go and see. And if you've never done it, you have to go. But that was
Okay.
what inspired that bag. And you know, Texas pecans, right? And then Texas bourbon. Why not, right? It's a great combination. And so that's where we got the bourbon pecan from. And so it was, that's one of my favorite bags as far as bags, but one of my favorite coffees that we have that's flavored is the Whiskey Willow.
Okay. Well, the other thing that you guys have is some merch, and
Yes,
we're all waiting on t-shirts again.
I know.
Um,
It's killing
hint,
me.
hint. Um, but they have some really cool coffee mugs, and the lighting is really, really bad in this office. But you've got the standard mug here. This is probably about a 12 ounce pour mug. And
14, 14
this is
ounce.
14.
Yep.
And I love it. It's got the Hunting Day logo on one side, and on the other side it says "Drink coffee, shoot deer." I mean, that's pretty much what grown men should do, right?
Right.
It's drink coffee and shoot deer. And then Steven is carrying the he's drinking out of the larger mug.
Yep. This is the 20 ounce tapered with a handle. And then we've got a 20 ounce that's just a 20 ounce with a handle, and then a 20 ounce with no handle. So we got four different tumbler options.
Right on. Well, um, in my very first episode of the Limitless podcast, I gave away products from three of the show's sponsors, and one of those products was a bag of Bowhunter. So I'm thinking, just because you and I've had the opportunity to sit here and chat now for wow, we're running over, we're over an hour,
Yeah.
which is fine with me. And because we have found out that Fort Worth is one of your favorite places on earth. I don't have the bag here with me to show in the video. It's probably not that important. I have it downstairs. I'm going to give away a bag of the Cattle Drive bourbon pecan coffee
Awesome.
um, for this show. So there
Okay.
will be details on the ins and outs that I hadn't even put any thought about into it until we were wrapping things up here, and I thought, you know what, I probably need to give away a bag of coffee for people that listen to this show. So um, I've got a big turkey hunt coming up. So this episode's going to publish the morning, potentially the morning that I'm departing.
Okay.
So I'll have to sit down and think about it's going to be YouTube comment based. People are going to have to make some comments on this episode on YouTube, but I'll figure out what those details are going to be, and then how long we'll keep that open before we shut it down, do the drawing, and ship that bag of coffee out. So
I'll
listening to
tell you
this
what,
episode, we're going to give away a bag of coffee.
I'm going to add to this for you. Okay. We'll throw in a tumbler as well. So, tumbler of choice. So,
Right on. All right.
yes, sir.
Wow. We're not only did Stephen call, but he raised the bet. Right on. Right on. Well, sir, I want to thank you for your time. This has been a lot of fun, and it's good to finally sit down and just have a jam session with you. And
Absolutely.
it's driving me nuts that we live probably 5 hours apart, and we haven't actually been face to face again since 18 January. So I'm thinking that maybe we need to fix that in some way, shape, or form.
Most definitely. We got some buddies coming up here. Chance and Hannah and their kids are coming up the end of this month, and we're going to be doing some bow fishing. Right, I've been working on my boat, been getting it ready for the water again. One of my favorite places to go is Cape Charles, right? And I love to launch out there, a little north of Cape Charles, actually near Wachapreague. That's over near you guys, I believe, over on the shore. So maybe we link up and do some bow fishing.
I'm all in. My wife and I love Cape Charles, and that's a short drive down the road.
Perfect.
Yep, we do. We love Cape Charles.
Awesome. Awesome.
Right on. Well, sir, I guess since this thing is about empty, um, I'm gonna go down and make myself a little pour over and carry on about my day. I have to go shoot my bow, sir. One
Me
arrow a
too.
day. One
Yes,
arrow a
sir.
day. Right on, man. Well,
Absolutely.
Stephen, thanks again for joining in. Really quick, tell everybody where they can go find your coffee.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much. And our website is huntingday.com or huntingdaycoffee.com. Takes you to the same place.
And then social media channels, that's a little bit tricky. So tell them where to find you on social media.
All right, so on Instagram, it's at Stephen Hunt Day. And then on Facebook, it's Hunting Day, or the at is at Stephen Robbins HD.
Excellent. All right, man. Well, everybody, you know how this is going to end. Be limitless.